All right, everybody, welcome to the #1 TV show in the world. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon and The Blackest Heart, both books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today, I am going to be reviewing Stephen King, Full Dark, No Stars. This came out in 2010. It is a collection of 4 novellas, kind of in the similar vein of his 4 Past Midnight collection or his Different Seasons collections. He's kind of got this thing going where once in a while he puts out a book that's got 4 short novellas in it. This is one of them. Now, let's talk about the covers first, because you know I love graphic design and cover art. So we always give a little short review of the covers. I've got the hardcover here and the paperback. Now, I will say that neither one of these really excites me. You know, I've done some reviews in here where a lot of these Stephen King covers, like this one, are really fucking awesome and dope. And so, I don't know, these are just both bland. The only thing I like about it is kind of the portrait of Stephen King on the back. So the first book has this image of a woman sort of in grief or whatever. I don't know what the fuck it has to do with anything in the book. This one, The Full Dark, No Stars, just has kind of a crow flying through the trees. Just both of them bland as just all get out. So, starting off on a lousy note. So, now Stephen King, I've been reviewing every single Stephen King novel in order of publication. So this came out in 2010. So you should know where we're at in the review cycle. I've probably reviewed 60 of his books. We're probably got about 15 left, maybe 20. I don't know, maybe more than 15. So we're getting there. We're reaching the final stages. I've also been listening to the audible.com version of each of the books as I do the reviews. So not only do I have a hardcover and a paperback version of each novel, I've got the audible.com version of each novel. As everyone should always buy 3 different versions of every novel that they ever read. That's just standard, especially if you're going to read mine. Just saying. Anyway, let's talk about these books. The audible.com version, again, I skipped it. This is the first time that I've actually skipped reading the Audible. I'd actually just read the books. Normally, I listen to the audible.com version and read along in the book. This time, I just read in the books. The audible.com version was narrated by 4 different voice narrators, and I didn't listen, so I have no review of that. And I know that's a disappointment to a lot of you because you like hearing my review of the voice narrators. Anyway, didn't do it this time. So, 4 novellas. Stephen King calls these some of the darkest stories he's ever written and some of the most difficult and hard to write stories that he's ever written, probably because they were dark. So I was like, all right, that's in the foreword. We will see. I did read this book when it came out. I remember it was not very memorable anything to me. In fact, the only really things that I remembered about it was because I saw the movie 1922, which is based off of one of the stories in here. That's all I remember. So when I reread it, I was kind of like reading these stories for the first time again, because none of them stuck out in my head as being memorable. Whereas in 4 Past Midnight and Different Seasons, some of my favorite Stephen King's works, I remember details of those stories to this day. These were just unmemorable. So let's talk about the first one, 1922. It's a Depression-era story set in, you guessed it, 1922. It's kind of like got a Bonnie and Clyde-esque feel, sort of, that's where, not really how it ends, but it kind of goes in that direction. A man confesses to killing his wife. It's just sort of a confessional. It's written out, in his handwriting is a confessional. I killed my wife. She wanted to sell the farm and move into Omaha because she thought the farm was boring. She wanted a more exciting life. I was just happy to live on the farm out in the middle of the sticks. And so to prevent her from, moving, I just killed her. That's how the book starts. He confesses right out the get-go. And to, get his son, actually, his 14-year-old son, actually, he convinces that boy to help him kill the lady. And they throw her down a well. They throw her by... Oh, by the way, actually, one of the things about this book that was pretty memorable, and the description of them murdering the lady in the house is Stephen King top-notch gruesome level writing. It's just great if you like the morbid. Well, then they kill her. They toss her down a well. They're like, oh, well, that's her body might stink. Let's throw a dead cow down there just so we can blame the stink on the dead cow. And then things just go ass over teapot over that. He's a conniving man. In fact, he considers himself a conniving man. He calls himself the conniving man. In fact, when he's talking to his wife and stuff, he's like, you don't want to bring out the conniving man in me, kind of a thing. It's very creepy. It's probably the one semi-memorable book out of the four. And that's probably because I saw the movie too, which is really good. Second story of the four is called Big Driver. It is about Tess. She is a novelist. I'm going to put one of these down. I just hate, I should probably just put both of them down, but we'll just hold this one up. Big Driver, Tess. She is the writer of the Willow Grove Knitting Society book series. It's a very famous book series. She does speaking engagements all around the country, but she doesn't like to fly. So she drives to these, and she drives to the engagement. She speaks, and then she is given sort of false directions on how to get home. While she's driving down this lonely old road, her car breaks down, gets a flat tire. Another guy, who she refers to as the Big Driver, pulls over to help her. Well, anyway, he ends up kidnapping her. She wakes up in a culvert, amongst a bunch of other dead bodies, and so she then goes to seek revenge, and as she's seeking revenge, she finds out a lot of plot twists and betrayals. Like, everything wasn't as it seemed with the speaking engagement. Maybe the road that she was sent down was a setup. All these things sort of come into play. And does she get her revenge or not? Or does it go sideways? Does she in her quest for revenge, does she commit more evil than was ever committed upon her? We shall see. There's also a movie made about this one. I didn't see that movie. Didn't see it. Maybe I should. Maybe it would be pretty good. So that is the second story of the two. I would have given 1922 probably, because that was pretty good. I would give that about 9 out of 10 stars. Big Driver, I would have given it maybe 7.5 out of 10. And then we get to Fair Extension. The novella is called Fair Extension. It's set in Derry, Maine, which a lot of the books, like it, were set in Derry, Maine. The made-up town where all the weird Stephen King horror things happen. There's a guy named Streeter, and he's he's dying of lung cancer, and he meets this guy named George, who specializes in selling extensions. In other words, life extensions. But you have to kind of make a deal with the devil to get this life extension. And the deal is, I will give you 15 more years of healthy life, because you're going to die in the next few months. But I will give you 15 years of more healthy life. But in return, you have to give 15% of your money to someone you absolutely fucking hate. And so the guy makes the deal. He gets the life extension. And everything spirals weirdly and unfortunately and misfortunately out of control after that. And I don't know if I can say much more about the story. Not only does it spiral out of control in Streeter's life, but sort of everybody around Streeter just gets swept up in this storm of, crap that starts happening. So Moral of the story, don't always do a deal with the devil. I kind of was bored with this one a little bit. I would give this one about a 5.5 out of 10. It was, everything Stephen King writes is going to be 1 out of 10. It's going to be 5 or above just because the guy's brilliant. And I've read everything. And if I read through everything, that means I liked it somewhat. So the fourth story is called A Good Marriage. Now, this is based off of the real serial killer Douglas Radar, who killed people and lived with his wife and family for years and years, and they never knew that he was a serial killer. And the question is begged, how can you live with someone that long and not know that they're a serial killer? And so Stephen King wanted to explore that theme. How can someone live with a serial killer for 30 some odd years and not know that they're a serial killer? So he set this story up, set in Portland, Maine. It stars Darcy and Bob Anderson. Darcy is the wife. Bob Anderson is the killer. 27 years of marriage. And she starts to find some clues around the house that maybe something ain't right about her husband. Like, she finds the IDs of dead people that have been killed over the years. She finds lots of weird pornographic images that her husband's been collecting, and she just kind of starts piecing this together that her husband might be a serial killer, and that's basically the story. Won't tell you how that one ends either. That one was a little more interesting. I would probably give it about a 7 out of 10. So overall, I think the book itself as a whole, I would give it literally probably 7 out of 10. Because, yeah, the 1922 I gave a 9 out of 10. Big Driver is about a 7.5. Good Marriage about a 7. And then Fair Extension about a 5.5. Yeah, that's average. We'll just say 7 out of 10 for this one. Full Dark, no stars. So that's my review of that.